Super. Okay. Now this is going to be quite informal, just to say. So I'm just going to chat about some programs and some apps that I find useful. If you want to put questions in the chat, that's absolutely fine. If I see them as we go, I'll answer them. If not, I'll answer them at the end. And as Eddie said, we'll turn off the recording at the end if you want to come in on the microphone and ask anything at all. So for those who don't know me, I'm a second-year PhD student in School of Psychology. I'm doing my PhD with Jigsaw, and I'm a bit of a nerd. I really like computers. A lot of my hobbies are computer-based, but I don't have any qualifications in computers, just to say that. I like solving problems with them. If I have an issue, I'm like, someone's made a program for this, and I will find it. So all the information in this is based on my experience and a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of reading around different things, but I'm not an IT expert, just to put that out there. But saying that, if I mention a program and you try it and you really like it, I'd love to know. If I mention a program and you hate it, also tell me. Or if I mention a program and you have a problem with it, absolutely send me an email and I'll see if I can help you out at all. So today, gonna look at reference management, digital note-taking, and then some just random apps and programs that I found useful. So starting off with reference management, and I swore I wouldn't do a mentee, but I'm going to go ahead and do a mentee just to see if I'm preaching to the choir or if people are new to reference management or what's the story. So if you go to mentee.com and type in that code, you should be able to vote. Yeah, I have the right slide open there. Okay, so hopefully you can see the votes coming in there. So we've got 4 people who use EndNote, 1 person who uses Mendeley, 2 people who don't use reference management, that's fine. Nobody for Zotero, interesting. Wow, okay, EndNote is popular, interesting. Cool, okay, good to know. So there's going to be 1 more mentee later on, so if you want to keep that open on your phone or your desktop, whichever. So that is good to know. We'll go back to the slides. So for those who don't use a reference manager or who use a different one, not Mendeley, this is typically what it would look like. So in the middle, you have all of your articles. At the moment, this is just showing like all of the articles in all my folders. So you can see all the details about them. On the right, then you've got the metadata with the articles, and all of this is editable. So if something comes in, it might have a mistake in it, you can edit all of this, you can correct the information. Mendeley has this cool feature, and I think they all do, where you can tag the article. So you could tag it as, read later or really important, or tag it as the, part of the systematic review or something like that. So that is up to you, author keywords. And then over here, you've got filtering, and you can filter by author, or you can filter by these author keywords, etc. And then here's where your folders are. We're going to completely ignore my folders because I'm in the middle of restructuring them. I don't like the way I've done it. Going to fix that, but you can sort them in any way you choose. So that is generally what a reference manager would look like. And then you can plug that into Word or whatever program you use, but that's what the software itself would look like. Okay. And then why you need a reference manager, why they're useful. So first of all, and most importantly, you can insert formatted references quickly into your writing as you're writing. You can format and reformat them to whatever system you're using. So you might type it originally in APA, and then you want to submit it to a journal that uses a numbering system, couple of clicks, they're all changed. And then you can quickly put in a reference list or a bibliography, again, according to the style that you need, and you can reformat that again and again with a couple of clicks. And it's so little work on your part is the main thing. Now, I had this fear that my computer wouldn't be able to handle me using so many programs at the same time while also sharing them on Zoom. So I have a really short video of what the reference management looks like when you're using it in Word. So just give me 2 seconds and we'll get that going.
Okay, just to quickly show you then what reference management looks like when you're in Word. So this is just some text I copied in from something I wrote. And you can see different references in it, and you know they're from a reference manager because when you click them, they get these kind of grey boxes around them. So to put in a citation, you just click where you want it to go. And because I use Mendeley, I'm going to go to the References tab, and Mendeley has its own section here when you install the plugin. Zotero and EndNote, they get their own tab. I don't have EndNote, but it would also be up here. But Mendeley is in References. So click where you want it to go, click Insert Citation, and we'll say, for example, it's Brown and Clark. And put it in like that. Put in another one. You can search by author, title, journal if you like. So for example, if I type in My World, and that goes, you can also put in if there's like multiple papers that all made the same point. So for example, if we say that these people said it, also them, and I'm absolutely making this up at the moment, but and them. Cool. And then the 3 of those will go in, and you'll notice it changed the order that I had typed them to match the style that I'm in. So up here you see style, and it's in APA, but if for example I click Vancouver, all those will change to numbers. When you want to put in your reference list, just click where you want your reference list to go and click Insert Bibliography, and they will appear formatted. Now sometimes you'll see a small mistake either in the reference list or in the actual citation, and that's usually there's an error in your metadata in Mendeley or whatever reference manager you're using. So you just go to the reference manager, check the data, you can edit it, and then when you click refresh here, it will update accordingly. What is pretty cool then is, say for example, I say, you know, I don't want Brown and Clark there, I can cut them out. Now they're still here, but if I click refresh, they are gone. And then if I say that this is actually where they're meant to be, so put them in there, and click refresh again, and they've come back again. And then if I go to Vancouver, you'll see that the order that these are appearing in is going to change to match the chronological order of the numbers. But I can do the same. So say, for example, I don't want Brown and Clark there, so get rid of them, and I actually want them there, for example. And then click refresh again, and it'll update the numbers, put them in the right order, and it will change the order of the reference list.
Sorry, lost my PowerPoint for a second. Thank you, Pat Maeve. So that is just what it looks like in Word when you're using it. Hopefully you were able to hear that okay. So just some other, beyond just using it in Word and while you're writing, some other benefits to having a reference manager. You have all your literature in one location. Rather than scattered across different folders, you can build a library of articles and books, and you can sync them across devices. So for example, I got this laptop that I'm using in November, and I was able to just download Mendeley, sync, and all my references that were on my old laptop just appeared on my new laptop. So if you change device, you can get all your library really quickly. You can access articles from, if you have a tablet, from your phone, if you really want, they're synced. You can share libraries for collaborative projects. So for example, I was working on a systematic review for PIETA last summer, and we had a shared library when we were developing the protocol for that systematic review. So we were all accessing the same literature, and if someone else put in an article, I was able to see that, etc., etc. You can also read PDFs within the software and annotate them, make notes, tag them, all of that. So again, like everything is just in one place rather than across different folders on your computer. You can also quickly save articles from your browser, or especially through Mendeley, you can find articles by using the software itself. This one I really like, and I think this might be just particular to Mendeley. You can get articles based on your current reading. like straight to your inbox. So for example, when I was working on that systematic review for PIETA, I was getting emails, I think it's every second week they send them, and they were all to do with suicidal behaviours in young people, because that's all of the literature I was reading at the time. Went back to my PhD work, suddenly I was getting articles in my inbox about mental health in schools, because it knows what you're reading in the programme. Some people might not like that, it's a little bit Big Brother, but it's a feature that I really like. And then finally, this is something I only learned recently, that you can sync your reference manager with NVivo, which is software primarily used for qualitative data analysis, but you can import your library and you can then run queries across like thousands of PDFs at the same time. For example, if you were looking at stigma research, for example, you could import all of your articles about stigma and search them all at the same time for definitions of stigma. You can then extract all that data, code it, and very quickly build up a sense of what way people define stigma by using NVivo and a reference manager together. So then, which reference manager? Now, from the poll, quite a few people are using endnote. So personally, I don't like endnote, but that's just me. I think the main choice you have to make is either between endnote and something else, because endnote has some limits on it. So that's your first choice. And then once you decide, okay, I'm going to go with endnote, or I'm not going to go with endnote, then you've got other choices. So endnote is available through UCD, and you can also get support from UCD Library. So if you run into a problem with endnote, you can contact the library and they can help you out. They don't have that kind of support for the other reference managers. I do think it's interesting though, I've been to a lot of talks in the library about reference management and about endnote itself, and none of the librarians themselves actually use it. So I think that, that does say something about it. It is a really good one and you can get support from UCD, but, unlimited space. But you should think about future-proofing your library, because when you leave UCD, you may lose access to your endnote. And you can move all your references out of endnote before you leave UCD, but then you have to learn a whole new program. You have to reorganize everything again. So it's just something to think about. EndNote is very good, but you might lose access if you're accessing it through UCD. Once you've left UCD, you can get EndNote again, and it's a one-time cost, which in comparison to other software, they have a subscription model. EndNote you pay, I think it's about $300, and then you have it forever, but it is quite expensive. So just something to think about if you're using EndNote via UCD. So one of the benefits of EndNote is that it has a lot more customizable features than other reference managers, especially for sorting your references, which makes it better at tracking articles if you're using it for a systematic review. If you're using something like Covidence, then this isn't as big a deal, but if you were ever using your reference manager to screen for a systematic review, EndNote is better than others at doing that. A con against EndNote is that your PDFs are only stored locally. I mean, that's a tiny, tiny thing, but it means that if you access an article through the EndNote online on a different device, you don't have the PDF and you have to go find that again. Whereas say Mendeley and Zotero, the PDF is also uploaded to the cloud. There is an EndNote Basic that is completely free, but it's not very good. Mendeley then, that's the one I use. It is free and it has paid upgrades. Because it's free, it does have some limits. So you only have 2 gig of cloud storage on the free plan, and you can pay to get more storage if you like. 2 gig is actually quite a lot though, if it's just citations, and you can kind of maximize that storage by not syncing PDFs with the cloud. So if you find you're running out of space, there might be articles that you don't need the PDF in Mendeley and you can keep the citation but delete the PDF, you get more space. There is, as I said before, I've used it for collaboration before, but it is very limited on the free plan, and you can pay monthly or yearly to get more space and more collaboration on Mendeley. So it does, in comparison to EndNote and Zotero, it does have better features for annotating PDFs, like adding sticky notes, adding tags, all of that kind of stuff. It has a lot of features there. And you can also access a lot of other research through the software itself. And this, I don't know if people use LaTeX, but it's a book typesetting program, and Mendeley works with that, as does EndNote. Zotero doesn't. I just like Mendeley, basically. I think it's really nice. I did try out Zotero, and it was so similar to Mendeley that I just went back to Mendeley because I was used to it. I know where everything is. I just really like the interface. And then Zotero, sorry, gonna move my Zoom box. There we go. So Zotero is open source, which that might be important to some people. So Mendeley is owned by Elsevier, EndNote is Web of Science, Zotero is its own thing. And it's free, and again, with paid upgrades. The limits on the free account are that you only have 300 megabytes of cloud storage, and that is so much smaller than Mendeley. And again, you can pay to get more. However, you do have unlimited space on both Mendeley desktop and Zotero desktop. So if you're only using it on your computer and you don't care about the syncing to other devices, then the space isn't as big a deal. And again, there is a subscription model if you want more space. There's a lot more capacity for collaboration on Zotero. You can have as many groups as you like with as many people as you like on the free account. However, like that sounds great, but the more collaboration you do, because all the collaboration is online, the more space you need. So you still get trapped with that 300 megabytes of cloud storage there. But that is one of the reasons people move to Zotero, is because of the increased collaboration as compared to Mendeley. Zotero is better if you're citing loads of different types of sources, that it's not just the typical ones of articles and books. If you're citing, an interview, or someone was citing an email, Zotero is much better at that kind of thing than Mendeley or EndNote. But again, you just have to is that something you need to do? It works with Google Docs, which is a pro with it, where the other two don't. So if you use Google Docs a lot, Zotero might be the one for you. So basically, when you're trying to decide which one, they all basically do the same thing. They all organize literature. They all have plugins. They all work with Word. They all let you save articles from the web. But there's just little things that some of them do better than others. And then also there is with EndNote that it's paid and that you are accessing it through UCD. So there's small things to think about, but no matter which one you choose, it is going to do the thing you want it to do. It's going to do the most important bits. And picking one, it just depends on what's important to you in your work. If you want more collaboration, Zotero. If you want more space, Mendeley, etc. And then I'm going to share these slides. These are just lots of links if you want to learn more. So if you want to learn more about reference managers in general, if you choose one and want to learn how to use it, I've just put in some useful links there. And then at the bottom, if you want to know how to move all of your library to another reference manager, there's a link at the bottom there. So I will share all this with you. Okay, and then digital note-taking. If you wouldn't mind going back to the mentee, I'll change the slide. Okay, you should be able to see the next slide now. Got one person for Notion, and I think I know who that is. Two people don't use it. Okay, well, this is good because most people used a reference manager. That's kind of preaching to the choir. But note-taking, that's interesting. Okay. So that's 7 people. Oh, someone uses something else. Interesting. I'd love to know what it is. Great. Okay, super. I'll go back to the slides. Okay, so first, just to try and win you over to digital note-taking in general. And I also need to say, I don't think you should 100% go digital. I use handwritten plus digital. I don't think going 100% either way is great, but a hybrid is perfect. So does this sound like you? That you have a notebook, at least one notebook, and you have a couple in storage. I know I have a lot of them in storage, various parts of my life, various projects. That you have a lot of folders full of paper, that you have millions of folders on your computer, and you have some USB keys, don't really know what's on them, some hard drives. I have 4 hard drives, not all research stuff, but I do own 4 different hard drives. And then you have billions and billions of Word files of just various things. So this is kind of what I was like, and I kind of decided the system wasn't working for me. So for example, with my current systematic review, just to give you a taste of like where all my stuff was and why I decided to change it. So the review I'm working at the moment is my 4th review, and Obviously, I have a lot of learning, I have a lot of papers, a lot of literature from previous reviews, and all of that is just scattered across various notebooks on hard drives. And then I've attended a lot of webinars and workshops about different parts of systematic reviewing, again, across a lot of different notebooks. Some of them were in person, so there's a lot of printed handouts. I have some handouts on my computer. And then when I actually went to write my protocol, that's one document, but then I also have separate documents for the search strategy, inclusion criteria, so I was able to share them. They're in subfolders on my computer, they're also on my hard drive. And then for some bizarre reason, when I did my searches, I wrote down all of the numbers. I'm still confused as to why I did that and why I didn't, log them in a Word file, but I wrote them in my notebook. And then any issues that were coming up while myself and Maria were screening, they were handwritten, they were in PowerPoints, they were in Word files. And then anything digital was also on my hard drive, was also on OneDrive. And then you don't know which, is that the version that's the same? And I will say, I am a very organized person. This sounds like chaos, but I do know where everything is. And if you ask me for a piece of information, I know where to find it. But this system just wasn't quite working for me. Hence, I decided to move to a digital system. And I also take handwritten notes, but I do use a digital note taker quite a lot. So why should you use a digital note taker? First of all, your notes are then searchable. You can tag them, but also a lot of note takers can just search through the contents of your notes, so you can find things a lot quicker. They're supplemented if you need links to websites, links to articles, images, anything like that, they can all be there. Shareable, so for example, Maria is working on my systematic review with me, so I was able to share all of my notes on that, so she's as up to date as I am on it. They're all in one place. Need I say more? Synced across devices. So again, if you move to a new laptop, you can re-download all of your notes. You can also access them if you use a tablet or something like that. They're editable. So if there's something extra later on, you can add that in, or if something changes, you can change the notes. Backed up, so you don't lose them. Hopefully organized, potentially organized. Saving you physical space. I quite like minimalism. I'm not a minimalist, but I'm an aspiring minimalist. So I like not having lots and lots of paper. And then I think most importantly, having digital notes gives you an audit trail or a research record that you can refer to. So when decisions were made and why the decision was made and all of that. Okay, there are billions of note takers, but I've picked 3 to think about. So first, OneNote, you'll notice from the logo, it is Microsoft, it is free. You can access it through UCD. However, because it's free, you can also use a personal Microsoft account and still have the same access. If you do use your UCD one, you obviously can sync with your UCD OneDrive and all of that. But again, just think about future proofing. If you move to an institution that doesn't use Microsoft 365 or you change completely, you might lose access to those notes. And you can export from OneNote, but it is a bit time consuming. So you could use OneNote and use a personal account, or use the UCD and sync across. That's your choice. There's a lot of pros to it. So basically its structure is a notebook. And then within a notebook, you have sections like chapters. Then within the chapters, you have pages. So I've been kind of trying out OneNote recently. So I have a notebook called Systematic Review, and then I have a section called Protocol, and then I have pages with my search strategy, my search string, all of that. You can embed lots of different things. You basically have as much space as your OneDrive has space. So a lot, basically. The pages are endless, which is something a lot of people like you can keep going right forever and keep adding things, and you can keep going down forever and keep adding things. Some people don't like that feature. I personally do. It does have OCR, which I can't remember the exact full thing of that, but basically if you put in an image that has text in it, you can copy and paste that text out of the image. So if you put in a screenshot of this PowerPoint slide, you would be able to select the text and take it out. Also, if you search within OneNote, it'll also search the text within images, which is pretty cool. You can also audio capture in the app. So if you want to talk to the app and have it type for you, you can do that. And if you're used to Microsoft apps, it has a very similar feel. There are a lot of extra features, but it does feel broadly similar. Some of the cons is that yes, it feels similar to Microsoft apps, but it's not 100% intuitive. It can be a little bit overwhelming because everything is just blank, asking you to put stuff in, and there's not a lot of kind of guidance on it. It can be a little bit overwhelming. Also, a lot of users have reported issues with syncing. And the first time I ever used it was months ago. I attended this really amazing webinar on data management. And I took loads of notes in OneNote because I decided, that's it, I'm going digital. And they didn't sync and I lost them. So I'm trying OneNote again, but I do have some issues with it. Evernote then is very similar to OneNote, but it's a little bit easier. So again, it's free, but you can only have it on 2 devices. So you can have it on your computer and your phone. You can't have it on your computer and your phone and your tablet unless you pay more. It does have a limited space, but unless you're embedding millions of PDFs and embedding videos and things like that, the space is loads. If you do run out of space, you can pay monthly or yearly to get a little bit more space. Very similar to OneNote, very similar feel with that it has notebooks and pages, and then you can stack the notebooks. But it's just easier to use, I think. It also has some really nice customizable features, like you can tag your notes so that they're easy to search later on. You can kind of do that in OneNote, but it's not as nice. You can search in Evernote really nicely as well, particularly with that tagging system. And you can also, if you embed a PDF, you can write on the PDF and put sticky notes on your PDF and everything. It also has OCR and scanning. So for example, if you scan a document with the Evernote app, it will then recognize that as text and you can copy and paste the text out. And it also has audio capture. It's not as slick as the other ones. It doesn't look as nice, but they are improving it. And I think the people who own Evernote are very aware that there's all of these new apps. So they are kind of updating it and giving it features that other apps have that it didn't have initially. The main drawback on it is those limits of space and the 2 devices. But otherwise, Evernote is quite good and it's probably the easiest to use. Notion then, it's free with paid upgrades again. However, if you're a university student or a university teacher, you can get the Personal Pro account, which gives you a lot more space. You can embed like more documents and things, whereas on the free account, you're limited. But you just need to use your UCD address and you get all that extra space. It's not just a note-taking app. I think I use it as a note-taking app, but it can do so much more. But it is essentially a workspace on your computer, but you can't just use it as a basic note-taking app. It has a lot of customization, a lot of filtering, sorting. You can link information really nicely. So if you have a note, for example, I have, say, notes from webinars, and then I have my actual PhD projects, and I can link those together so that when I'm looking at my PhD projects, with a click, I see my notes from my webinar. And you can embed a lot more things in Notion. You can embed tweets, images, videos, whole web pages. You can embed all those in Notion. It is kind of life-changing, but it's not easy. It's a bit of a rabbit hole learning how to use it. But once you kind of get how it works, it is really, really great. And you can export your pages as PDFs. So I know I was doing some collaboration with Dorania, Kira and Anya, and we would stay, like, I took notes during our meeting and I was able to export this as a PDF and send it to them so we all had the notes. It doesn't play well with Word though. If you copy and paste to a Word document, you have to do a lot of formatting, which is a bit annoying. And main drawback to it, it's not available offline. So if your internet goes, your Notion is unavailable for that time. So those are 3 possible apps you could use for note-taking. I saw a really good video recently talking about personality types and note-taking apps. And it was saying if you have a librarian personality type that you like a lot of structure and that, you will love Evernote and OneNote. If you have an architect personality type, so you want loads of customization, you want to be able to build all of your notes up, but you do still want a bit of structure, Notion is the one for you. And if you have a gardener personality type in that you don't want any structure, you just want freedom and to not be tied down by anything and just watch your notes grow, none of these will quite do it for you. There are lots of other apps that will do it, and let me know if you want to know about those, because I can send you on some links. Also, I'd love to just know how your brain works, because That is not me at all. I am definitely the architect and a little bit of the librarian as well. But most people, they do use a combination of apps. If you look up videos on comparing any of these, people will say, I use Notion for this, I use Evernote for that, and I also use handwritten notes, which at the moment I'm using Notion mostly, and then handwriting some things. And I'm starting to use OneNote a little bit. And I am syncing now with my UCD account, and I'm just aware that I'll have to export those in the future, and I'm okay with that. A word on security in all of these. So the three that I've mentioned are all encrypted, but they don't have end-to-end encryption, which basically means your notes are safe unless somebody hacks the company. So for example, like if somebody hacks Microsoft, your notes are vulnerable. Evernote is stored in the Google servers. If somebody hacks Evernote, your notes are vulnerable. But they are pretty safe. I would just say don't put sensitive information into the apps. Like don't start storing your internet passwords or your credit card information or your health information in the apps, because there is just that little bit of vulnerability. Or don't store participant info in these apps. They are safe, but not 110%. Okay, the Notion tour, I'm going to leave that. We might come back at the end if we have time, because Notion is very, very particular. If there are people, if we don't get time, and if there are people who really want to see how Notion works, you can just give me an email and I will happily show you how to work Notion. Or we might be able to come back at the end just to see what it looks like. Again, if you want to learn more, I have lots of really useful links. You'll notice most of them are YouTube videos, just on the various apps. And then if you pick one, you can learn how to use it with links there. And I have just some links on the bottom about security in all of these apps. And again, I will share the slides. These are just some random apps that I'm going, or not even apps, websites and apps that I'm going to fly through that I really like, and they all do something kind of random but very useful. The first one, this is just a website that is great. So at the moment, myself and Maria are extracting data, and when you copy and paste out of a PDF, you're probably very familiar. If you grab some text, if you put it into a Word document, it does this. And then you have to go, and like, it doesn't take that long, but it's really annoying to get rid of those line breaks. And sometimes it's even worse. Sometimes you'll copy out of a PDF and like each word is a new line, and it's extraordinarily irritating. But you can grab that text, put it into this website, press a button, line break's gone, and you move on. It's great. So this is one of those times where I was like, no, this is not good enough. Someone has made a tool for this and I need to find it because this is really annoying me. So really, really good website. Microsoft Whiteboard, I really, really enjoy. It's free. You can use it with a Microsoft account. You can't use it with your UCD Microsoft account. I don't think they've paid for that part of Microsoft. But if you use just a normal email address, you can get access to it. You basically get a blank board and you can draw on it, you can type, you can embed pictures, sticky notes, you can put links on it, you can embed PDFs on it. And it's really nice if you're brainstorming or if you're collaborating on something. So for example, in Jigsaw, we were looking at the One Good School logic model, a group of us. So we had a whiteboard where we put loads of sticky notes, and then a subgroup of us went back and we rearranged all the sticky notes and color coded them, and basically did some kind of thematic analysis on them and went down and kind of made it smaller and smaller. So all of that was done in Whiteboard. Or I was looking at my dissemination plan, and Suzanne had given a wonderful talk on MTREC, and I was very inspired. So I decided to map out my project according to MTREC. And again, you can see I've drawn some of it is typed, I've put in some pictures purely for aesthetics. But yeah, love Microsoft Whiteboard, it's really, really good. Padlet is really nice. It's basically a notice board. It's kind of like Pinterest, but it's not social. So you can get, it's free, and you can have 3 boards, but if you're using it for, say, brainstorming, you just delete a board and make a new one. When you use up your 3, you can put text in it, you can put images, you can upload files, embed links, all of that. And you can share the board with others and have a password on it, or you can make it public if you really want. And what I really like about it is that other people don't need an account to interact with the board. So you need an account to set up the board, but then if you're doing some brainstorming for something collaborative, you just send the link to people and they can log in, they can interact and embed and all of the things, but they don't need to log in as well. Whereas say Microsoft Whiteboard, they do need to log in. I've used it primarily to share resources with students outside of class. When I used to teach in DCU, if I wanted to share the PowerPoint slides from class or just links for useful things, I would put them on Padlet, and the students didn't need to log in. They could just click on the link and get all of that. I've also seen it used as a kind of a whiteboard Mentimeter hybrid on Zoom calls, where say people are looking for feedback on something, they will create a Padlet and ask people to put in notes about what they learned from the talk or something like that. It's really, really good. And then this is very niche, and most people probably won't need this, but I said I put it in because it absolutely saved my life a couple of times. Mouse Without Borders, it's only for Windows, unfortunately. However, I do think Apple has a feature that can do this anyway. I think it's called Universal Control, where you can link Mac devices. But Mouse Without Borders is a piece of software that lets you link computers. So I have an external monitor now, but before I had one and I was doing a systematic review, it's just so much easier if you have two screens. So I had my laptop and I had my partner's very, very old laptop. So I linked them with Mouse Without Borders, and you can put things across the screens, copy and paste, all of that. It's really, really, really useful if you haven't got a second screen, but you do have a laptop that you can borrow from somebody. This one, Ailish shared with me. It's really, really good. The Academic Phrase Bank, if you want functional language in your writing, like if you're sick of using the phrase, for example, and you're like, I can't think of anything, you can find something here. Or you don't want to say, blah, 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 can be defined as, you want to get a new phrase, you can get it here. Really, really nice. So that, all credit goes to Ailish for that one. She told me about that. This one is really nice for making Gantt charts. And again, it's not like necessary. You can make a Gantt chart in Word, in PowerPoint, in Excel, but it makes it really quickly. So you'll see on the example here, these are all, this isn't mine, it's from the internet, but these are all tasks. You put in the dates and it'll draw the bars for you. You can color code it. It's very, very fast, and it's completely free. And then just the last one I have here is just a really fun one. Coolers, you open this website and you just keep pressing spacebar and it will give you color palettes. So if you're trying to get a color scheme for a PowerPoint or a video or something, so say, for example, you got this and you're like, I really like that shade there. You can lock that shade and keep pressing spacebar, and it'll give you complementary colors based on the colors you lock in. It's really, really nice. And then it gives you the hex number, which then you can put into PowerPoint and you can get all those colors. Random, not necessary, but really, really fun. So that is all of the various things that I was going to share with you. Again, if we have time, I can show you Notion, or we can leave that to another day, I don't mind. And also in the future, if you're interested in learning about resources for digital storytelling or creative dissemination, video making, doing stuff with audio, I would be happy to talk about that. And again, email address on the bottom. If you use something I've recommended and you love it, let me know. If you hate it, let me know. If you have a problem with it, also let me know. Wow.
Maeve, thank you so much. Gosh, that is just so wonderful. And I love the thing you ended with, coolers. It just looks absolutely fantastic. I absolutely loved that presentation. Thank you so much. I'm going to suggest, how long is your little example that you skipped over there?
Notion. It can be as long or short as you like, because I didn't make a video, so it would just be me clicking on my Notion. And
would people like to see that? Because the chances we'll come back to it are probably fairly
slim.
Small. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
sure.
give a couple of minutes to that, Maeve. That would be lovely.
Notion. Sure. Okay. So this is my Notion. I set up a dashboard. So just various things you can do in Notion. I embedded a thing so I can check the weather and swords. I've embedded a Spotify playlist, all these random things you can do that are entirely not related to note-taking, but that are very cool. We'll go into my PhD here. So for example, I was mentioning the way I used to store all my systematic review stuff. If you click on systematic review, and it'll open them small, you just click open as page. And I've basically made separate pages for all the different parts of the review. So before, for example, aims, I probably would have had a Word document in a subfolder of a subfolder for that. Let's say screening. So I've got links here to Covidence itself, to the Covidence help page. This little arrow basically means that what's linked here lives in a different part of my Notion. So this was a webinar I went to on Covidence. So we'll open that. No. Yeah, and this was a webinar I went to, and I was still handwriting everything. So I just, with my phone, turned the handwritten notes into a PDF so I can scroll through those through my Notion. Go back. If we go to purpose of sampling, so this is something I've been reading about quite recently. So again, I've got all of the kind of colored lines. These are just the source that I copied in. And then I've copy and pasted out notes on various things for purpose of sampling. If we click on this one, I've got some notes. I also screen grabbed what these authors did for purpose of sampling. And it just keeps everything kind of together. So it's in the same place as everything else. And then if you see at the top here, you'll see a little shady circle of Maria, because she's working on this. So I've shared all this with her, so she can also get access to all of the various things that we need to know. If we click on UCD, for example, I have Youth Mental Health Lab in here. I've got the links to the different parts of the lab, the meetings we've had, any notes I've taken. That was the event I was talking about earlier on, where I was able to export the notes. In Jigsaw, again, I've embedded videos here for absolutely no other reason than whimsy. But we've got some notes here from meetings. If we go to the journal club, so in Jigsaw we have a journal club. So I make my notes in Notion. I could also do it in Mendeley. I tag the different papers. So eventually, when I kind of build up more of them, I can do a search. Show me all articles to do with youth engagement, and it'll show me those. And then within each one, I take notes, but then I've also embedded the PDF with the highlighting in it. Knowledge transfer, I'm just logging any kind of dissemination I'm doing. Again, I'm kind of tagging it. And then if you click on it, like I've got my tweet embedded from the Bit of Cake event last year. So again, I just have very quick access to everything if I need that link or something like that. This one I'm probably most proud of is the Learn. So these are all workshops I've attended. And again, I am tagging them as I'm going. So if I do like a search and I type in like systematic review, it'll only show me the systematic review stuff. And then if I'm reading about a topic, I'm putting it in here, and this is where like there's a lot of different sources, but they're all under the same kind of heading, and I put them in there. Resources is a mess, so we're not going to look at that. But that's where I'm kind of putting in, just like what this whole presentation was, just various things that I find, but I'm working on that. Weekly plan is something that is very cool, but it doesn't actually work for me. It just doesn't really match the way I work, but I was trying it out. As you can see, I don't even have a plan for this week. But I will just show you what that looks like, because I think it really would work for some people. So you basically open up a new one, and I've created, right, Zoom is interrupting me. Okay, I've created this, which is like a template button, so you can set up as many of these as you like, and it means every time you click them, they do the same thing. So if I click that, it will give me a weekly plan. There we go. So there's certain things I've pinned in that happen every single week. And again, so if I click this, it'll take me to a page where I have all of the notes from my supervisor meetings. And I have these buttons across the top. So if I'm setting up a new week, it can be like, I need to do a thing on Tuesday, and I have a meeting with somebody there, and I have a deadline on that day. Oh, wait, that meeting has moved to Tuesday. I can put that across there. It doesn't really work for me because I use Outlook calendar for Jigsaw, and I use UCD's calendar. And then I also am just kind of aware of the things that I need to be doing, but I think it could really work for some people. Yep. And then I'll show you one other thing in PhD. If we go to the MPsych project, this I really like. So when we were kind of doing some descriptive analysis for this project, I set up this table with all of our variables in it and categorize them. And again, I can do a search, so it'll only show me certain ones. And then within each of these, say if we go to Dish, we've got, I just snipped or screen captured the table so I can see what we had, and then how that maps on to the kind of national picture, and the link is in there. And then with these, I've got notes on how the measure works, again, some information about it, just so that it's all really quickly accessible during meetings or when we're planning the next stage. And then one thing that a lot of people use Notion for that I'll show you really fast is recipes. Nothing to do with research, but it's very useful. So if I click on this, I've put in I've just copy and pasted recipes that I use and tagged them all. You're all getting a really good insight into how my brain works. And so, for example, if I go search and I go, I want to make a dessert, and it'll show me all the desserts that I've put in. And I have the links to them all. And then if I click into them, it has the recipe actually in there. And all of these tables have different kind of views. So these are recipes that I haven't tried yet. So that's the default view. But if I click on gallery, it'll show me them like that, which is very nice. But it's all the same information, just presented slightly differently. And you can do that with any of the tables that I've shown you so far. You just change the view and it just is aesthetic. Yeah, that is a whistle-stop tour of Notion. You probably have whiplash from that.
Thank you so much, Maeve. I'm going to stop the recording now.